agency. And I want to introduce my friend and partner in this conversation, Katie Irving. We are both members of the board, a networking group and consulting group of fractional experts in the retail and beauty industry. And Katie, introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Allison. Hi, everyone. I am Katie Irving. I'm the founder of Moonshot, a fashion concept studio that specializes in product innovation and strategy. And my work focuses on kind of the front end of product creation, so pretty far upstream. I do a lot of work helping brands kind of figure out what to make, why it matters, and also kind of how it fits into people's lives. And so this topic of brand versus product strategy has come up. I know, Allison, for us, it's come up a lot in conversations, but also in projects where we've worked together, sometimes with the same clients. And I think we've both been aware of in the past, like moments when we've seen kind of disconnect between the story a brand was telling and the products they were trying to sell. Like certainly we've experienced that in our careers. And so I think we've seen this come up in the industry news also quite a bit recently. Just last week, we saw that Puma announced that they're merging their brand marketing and their product creation under one leader. And then we know that Gap did this when they hired Zach Posen to a lot of success. And so I think this really proves just how much the industry is really starting to recognize the need for more of that kind of tighter alignment between these functions. And so today, we're going to be talking about what happens when that link breaks between the product and the brand, what it takes to get it right, and starting today with an example of a brand that we worked together with, right?
Yeah, I think the closer I become to work with you and product, the more I realize how reliant brand identity and brand strategy and when I mean like the logo, the story, the look and feel a brand is putting out there is so tied to what the product point of view is. And so Katie and I work together a lot, and it's been a really great collaboration that improves both the strategy and the identity work. We're going to use a case study today to explain it. And it started in this manner. A family-run heritage jewelry brand had reached out to me. They wanted to move from wholesale and local to more global DTC, and they'd seen the work I had done for another jewelry brand, and they just wanted to look like that. And I think, like most clients that come to me, think, oh, a rebrand is going to turn our story around or put us on a path to success. But diving deeper into their business, I started to realize that there was like really no deeper story to their product or around their business, or a real clear point of view on the jewelry they are making. And it was all amazing quality, and it was like family run, and they had great ethical and sustainable practices, which is a right to play in the market, but not a right to win in this day and age. And the product that the jewelry they were making, yeah, it was beautiful and it was pretty and it was delicate and 100% gold. But like, there's a lot of brands in this crowded market doing exactly that and saying the same thing. And what I was trying to ask them was, what makes you different? Like, what do you want to be known for? What is your claim to no one else could be doing? And they had a hard time answering this. And they felt like there's like a lot of lanes that they could own in the jewelry world. So you would ask, like, I started talking to you about this and realizing that like product strategy needed to be part of the solution. And so this is when I reached out to you, because I had a hunch that like, I knew where their strength lay with the product and the strategy, where they were going to go, but it was only based on my own assumptions and based on my personal preference or intuition. And I knew I was hitting a wall. I couldn't go further with their story or their identity without having a red thread that tied back to product. Like, are we talking about charms? Are we talking about body jewelry? Are we talking about, big, bold jewelry, historical influence? Like, there was all these paths they could take. But I couldn't push them further down. Maybe like somebody could, and without doing that, but to me that wouldn't have been an ethical method of working with them. So without your insight, I would just be kind of making this all up based on my own intuition, and they'd just be unclear in their mission, still going forward. So that's when I called you, and I was like, what? And you started to realize quickly what we were all missing.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So I remember that's when we jumped on a call. And then, okay, I want to fast forward for a minute now. I'm curious, like, after this work we've done together, if you think about like today, like what value does product strategy give the brand founder now?
I mean, no long like the work you did helped us create a clear mission statement for them. They're no longer chasing trends in the jewelry space. They're no longer co-opting language that other brands are using. They're no longer second guessing creative decisions on where or what they should be talking about. The owner knows his own lane in the jewelry space and what he is going to be known for and how to build out a product assortment based on those qualities. And because of that, my team knew how to build out a world that is ownable for them around photo art direction, graphic design, the voice and language they use, and the stories they tell beyond jewelry.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. That's cool. That's a cool way to frame it. So, I want to share some thoughts now on kind of what happens like when brand is the weak link, and kind of like share some thoughts around like what it feels like on the product side when that's happening, and also like what does great product need to be successful. So in my experience, when the brand story is weak, product loses direction so easily. And without that bigger brand story, you end up with just very random product decisions being made. This is, I think, where you see brands overly chasing trends, or I think even more common, chasing their competitors instead of having a clear vision. I feel like this is something that happens so often, is that brands kind of assume that their competitors are getting it right. And if they're copying or somehow trying to chase them in a way that's going to fix some things. So I do a lot of channel checks in my work. So I'm always shopping brands in store, all for research, and I can tell pretty instantly when I walk into a store if there is a disconnect between the brand and the product, because when you walk in, the product will start to feel sort of like a random collection of key items without a story or kind of unifying vision for it. If the signage and the photography is not helping to tell a clear story, then you know that there's a disconnect between those two worlds. Like this can show up on social too. So like, to me, it's very, very apparent. I think on the customer side, it's just a confusing shopping experience and just not compelling, I think, is the other way it comes across. So I think great product needs a strong brand to set guardrails and context, who it's for, why it matters, how it fits into people's lives. And brand is that connection point that customers rely on to really help contextualize the clothing, to build emotion. And this is the tricky part, because I think that those things need to be agreed in tandem. And that's why I think the partnership piece of this is critical. And that's why I like working with you, Allison.
What did you see when I brought that brand to you? That was like, what did you see? Where did you see the pockets missing?
Well, to me, what was most exciting about that, like jewelry is a really uniquely crowded space at the moment. And so just the challenge of finding white space in that market is just an interesting one, first of all. But to me, what was exciting about that is that this was a founder that had such a long history within a particular type of jewelry. And I just felt like there was a really stronger product story there waiting to be told, based on like the legitimate chops that they had already in that space, but just framing it up in a way that feels like it's going to land with what people are looking for kind of today and in the future. And so that was sort of what came across to me initially, and why it was so fun to work on that. And of course, fun to see your process of them taking the ideas of the product and finding ways to tell it to the world beautifully, which is just really cool to see also.
Yeah, because then we took that insight and knowledge of like, okay, this is the lane we're going to lean into with this brand. And then I was able to tell it more. It was instead of just telling this very generic jewelry story about gold and quality and craftsmanship, we really leaned into a specific lane that this company had already been known for, but wasn't really speaking to. And that allowed us to create symbols and design elements based on this theme. It allowed us to write language that was based on the the point of view of the product. It allowed us to kind of create an overall vibe, knowing that this is the product they were leaning into. And it just helped to create that red thread throughout everything. And I mean, I remember you brought to the table an image that you thought felt like represented a lot of the product they were doing. And that became almost the cornerstone of all the work that we did. So, and realizing that now these two elements were tied with some like strong thinking and strong foundational versus just like intuition or anecdotal evidence. And that really that now this brand is going forward with like a super strong foundation around product and brand, and realizing like those two have to be like working side by side to, you know, for him now to go out into the world and sell. I guess like to kind of wrap this up, why do you think it's so important for brands to get this right at this moment? And what do they, you know, risk if they don't? So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's super important, especially right now, because I do think a lot of brands have lost this balance. I think over the past 5 years or so, I mean, it's been a wild ride. There's been a lot of over focus on performance marketing tactics and a lot of quick wins. And so brand storytelling's taken a bit of a hit, I think, along the way. And then I think on the product side, I think brands have been kind of reeling from just the pace of trends, also from these rapid shifts in consumer behavior that they're trying to keep up with. Consumer sentiment keeps changing. And so I think a lot of brands have kind of lost their identity along the way, just trying to keep pace on both sides of that, trying to chase trends, trying to stay relevant. And I think in both cases, this is about brands becoming totally disconnected from their customers. And I think we both seen cases where brands are just talking to themselves when they lose perspective, like it happens. And so I think this is kind of an identity crisis moment for some brands. It's also, in my opinion, just a huge opportunity to get this right and to find those connection points again, because the market is crowded. Like there is a lot of consumer fatigue. Mm-hmm. So I think clarity and consistency are competitive advantages in this landscape. And I think storytelling is a competitive advantage. And I think so is great product that helps tell a brand story. Yeah. So
like going back to our original thing, it's like, and the Puma example is like, which comes first, you know, a brand strategy or product strategy. And I think we're saying like the two have to like work together from the get-go. And it's kind of like, now I'm like, I don't want to start a project without you anymore.
Totally. And I'm like, I don't want to send products out into the world unless Allison is like is telling the story. So I think like our question was originally like chicken or egg, and like it's neither. Like I think it's like that they both have to happen in step with each other in order for it to be successful. There's no room for egos here, right? We're just everybody working together.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us here on Piping Hot. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me or Katie. If you would like to speak more on this topic, it's one of our favorites. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.